Imagine for a moment that everything around you today, every person who crosses your path, every circumstance you experience, every detail that seems random, is not the result of chance, but the direct consequence of something you once felt. I'm not talking about a fleeting thought that passed like a cloud, but about a deep, repeated, sustained emotion that left its imprint on the invisible fabric of reality. Neville Goddard stated it plainly. Feeling is the secret. It's not logic. It's not blind effort. It's not the number of hours you work or the endless to-do lists. It's that intimate vibration your being emits, often without you realizing it, that the universe registers as a command. And what's fascinating is that today, neuroscience is beginning to confirm what Neville taught decades ago. Your emotional states alter your body's chemistry, rewire your neural circuits, shape your perceptions, and, like a silent signal, organize the events that will show up in your life. Think about it carefully. If the life you're living now is the echo of past emotions, then right this very moment, you're planting the seeds of what's to come. The question is, what will you choose to feel now, knowing that this now is the root of your next chapter? But here lies a mystery that very few dare to explore. Most people wait for reality to change before allowing themselves to feel differently. We wait for the partner to feel love, for success to feel confident, for the achievement to feel fulfilled. We tell ourselves, when it happens, then I'll feel it. Neville turned this paradigm upside down. What if your ability to feel before you see is the key that unlocks what you desire? What if the secret is not in reacting to what already exists, but in producing within yourself the state that will generate what you seek? The journey we're about to embark on is not theoretical, nor is it just a motivational exercise. It is deeply practical and transformative. Step by step, we'll break down how to use your emotion as a creative tool, how to access the inner state that triggers outer changes, and, most importantly, how to sustain it long enough for the invisible to become visible. Because if everything you're experiencing today was shaped by an emotion you once felt, the great question is, what reality are you building right now with the feeling you're holding? Every day, tens of thousands of thoughts flow through your mind like an endless river. Most dissolve without leaving a trace. However, some imprint themselves within you, gain strength, and eventually shape your life. What determines which ones survive? The answer lies in the emotion that accompanies them. Neville Goddard summed it up in one simple yet powerful sentence. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And who you are is largely defined by what you consistently feel, the emotional tone that dominates within you, even when you're unaware of it. Imagine your feeling as a radio station. No matter how many times you mentally repeat a desire, if your emotional frequency is tuned to a different station, the message won't get through. You can say, I am prosperous 1,000 times a day, but if a constant worry about debt beats within you, the signal you send to the universe is one of lack, and that is exactly what comes back to you over and over again. Neuroscience provides compelling evidence for this view. Studies on heart coherence show that the heart and brain form a synchronized system that generates electrical and magnetic patterns measurable several feet away. These patterns change dramatically when you feel gratitude, love, or joy, and that information is processed by your nervous system, influencing your decisions, your perception of opportunities, and even how others perceive and respond to you. Let's look at concrete examples. A person who, despite financial difficulties, cultivates an internal state of gratitude begins to notice small opportunities arising, an unexpected client, unsolicited help, a creative idea to generate income. This isn't magic in the superficial sense. It's the result of emitting an emotional frequency aligned with the prosperity they desire. We could say that feeling is the invisible ink with which you write your life. The world, like photosensitive paper, reveals the message. If the ink is fear, the story that appears will be one of limitation. If the ink is confidence, the narrative will be one of expansion and openness. The problem is that most people don't consciously control the ink they write with. They simply react to what's already been printed. We keep replaying old emotions as if we were playing the same song over and over, expecting it to sound different. The key, then, is to understand that your current emotional state is not merely a passive consequence of what happens to you. It is a creative act. Here and now, you are shaping what's to come. And if that's true, the inevitable question arises. If feeling creates, how can you feel something that doesn't exist yet? We live in a culture programmed to react. From a young age, we're taught that we must see it to believe it. We're told that we need tangible proof before we can allow ourselves to feel something new. So, we postpone our emotions. When I get that job, I'll feel secure. When I find a partner, I'll feel loved. When I have my dream home, I'll feel at peace. But Neville Goddard completely reversed this paradigm. For him, the creative sequence worked the other way around. First you feel, then you see. Emotion is not the consequence of events. It is their deepest cause. Modern science confirms this apparent mystery. Studies on the placebo effect show that when a person believes they are receiving real treatment, their body responds as if it were true. The immune system activates, pain decreases, internal chemistry shifts, and all of this happens without the real physical stimulus. What triggers the transformation is not the substance, but the emotional conviction that healing is underway. Something similar happens with creative visualization. Elite athletes have demonstrated that imagining their training in vivid detail, feeling the experience as real, activates the same brain areas as actual physical practice. This phenomenon is due to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and create new connections in response not only to what we do, but also to what we feel we are doing. We can find examples in daily life. A person who envisions themselves speaking in public with confidence and pairs that image with the physical sensation of calm and security is training their nervous system so that this response becomes automatic when the real moment arrives. This is where many people get stuck. How can I feel successful when my current reality shows me the opposite? Neville's answer was straightforward. Your current reality is only the echo of past emotions. If you react solely to that echo, you are feeding the very pattern you want to change. In other words, if you wait for something to happen before you feel it, you'll remain trapped in a cycle where the old dictates the new. But if you ignite that emotion before it exists in the physical world, you send a different signal into the field of possibilities, and that signal begins to reorganize your environment. This is the quantum art Neville taught, living in the end, mentally and emotionally inhabiting the fulfilled scene until that end becomes your starting point. For Neville Goddard, living in the end wasn't an inspiring phrase or a simple mental exercise, it was the very essence of conscious creation. It means adopting, right now, the emotional identity of someone who already has what they desire, not as a forced performance, but as a natural state cultivated until it becomes as familiar as your breathing. Imagine receiving a letter, message, or phone call today confirming that your greatest dream is already a fact. The job you've longed for, restored health, the perfect relationship. What would you feel? How would your body move? What thoughts would accompany you? That version of you, filled with certainty and relief, is the one you must embody before external evidence appears. Neville taught a very specific process to achieve this. 1. Clearly define the end result, not the means to get there. Don't imagine the process of earning money. Imagine that you are already enjoying financial freedom. 2. Create a short, symbolic scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. A handshake, a congratulation, a toast, a hug. 3. Replay that scene in your imagination in a relaxed state, preferably before sleep, when the conscious mind quiets down and the subconscious is more receptive. 4. Feel the emotion you would have if it were already real. Because an image without emotion is like a seed without water. It doesn't grow. This state, repeated night after night, is not a child's game of fantasy. It's like learning to dance to the music of a future only you can hear, until everyone hears it with you. That music, your sustained emotion, is what rearranges the pieces of reality to align them with your vision. At first, it's normal for the conscious mind to whisper, "But this isn't real. It hasn't happened yet." That voice is part of the process. The goal isn't to convince your logic, but to train your body and mind to recognize as familiar a state that doesn't yet exist physically. When your inner state becomes your dominant reality, the outer world has no choice but to synchronize. That is where the true power of living in the end reveals itself. If living in the end is the master key to creation, then the most resistant lock that can block it is feeling from lack. This is the silent saboteur that prevents many visualizations from bearing fruit. Here's how it often happens. You imagine your desire fulfilled, repeat affirmations, visualize scenes, but deep down, the dominant emotion isn't certainty, it's anxiety, impatience, or doubt. It's like trying to transmit a signal of abundance with an antenna that, without you realizing it, is still broadcasting on the frequency of scarcity. The result? You keep reproducing, over and over, the very conditions you want to change. Neville Goddard emphasized that the state of consciousness from which you create is more important than the mental image itself. You can build 1,000,000 perfect scenarios in your mind, but if you do it from the feeling of, "I don't have it yet," you are reinforcing the state of absence. Neuroscience backs this up. The brain and body can't tell the difference between a real experience and one vividly imagined, but they can detect the coherence, or lack thereof, between thought and emotion. If you think of success but feel fear of failure, your biology responds to the fear, not to the image of success. That chemical response, with elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline, keeps your nervous system in alert mode, blocking the expansive states that facilitate manifestation. On top of this are inherited emotional patterns. Many of our reactions were shaped in childhood and operate like automatic programs. Beliefs such as "I'm not enough," "life is hard," or "I always have to work twice as hard" color our emotions even when, on a conscious level, we try to think otherwise. This is why part of the work is not just to imagine the fulfilled goal, but to reprogram the baseline emotional state from which we feel. This involves identifying and releasing emotional habits that keep us vibrating in lack. Tools like conscious self-observation, therapeutic journaling, or self-inquiry meditation can help you detect those invisible roots and patiently pull them out. Imagine that emotion is the invisible ink with which you write your life, and that the state of lack is like a constant leak in the inkwell. You can have the finest pen and the best paper, but if the ink drips away drop by drop, the story will never be fully printed. In the next block, we'll see how to fill that inkwell and keep it full with the ink of certainty, so that the writing of your reality is clear, coherent, and powerful. If up to this point we've understood that feeling is the invisible ink and that the baseline state from which we create can be a saboteur, the final step is learning to reprogram emotion so that it stops vibrating in desire, which often implies lack, and begins vibrating in certainty, which implies fullness. Neville Goddard taught that the key is not to fight to change external circumstances, but to internally assume that the desire is already fulfilled. However, sustaining that emotion is not a matter of a fleeting moment of inspiration. It requires conscious training, like a muscle strengthened through practice. This is where modern tools become powerful allies. 1. Heart coherence. This science-backed technique synchronizes heart rhythm with breathing and brain waves, generating states of calm and openness. Practicing it while replaying your fulfilled scene anchors the emotion into your biology, preventing it from dissolving in the face of small setbacks. 2. Guided meditation, designed to take you into alpha to theta states, where the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious is more receptive. In this state, new emotional programming is recorded more quickly, as if you were writing directly into the core of your internal operating system. 3. Conscious autosuggestion. This is not about repeating empty phrases, but about making statements that arise from the correct emotion. Instead of saying, "I want success," which subconsciously communicates that you don't have it yet, you affirm, "I'm grateful for the success I already enjoy," and feel it as true. 4. Persistence without tension. Neville emphasized that it's not about forcing the state, but about inhabiting it gently again and again until it becomes natural. Like a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's grown. You trust that the soil and time are doing their work. Over time, this practice transforms your baseline state. You stop acting like someone who is searching and become someone who is broadcasting a clear, steady vibration. That internal shift is the most powerful and coherent signal the universe can receive. Feeling as if it's already real is not an act of self-deception. It is quantum engineering of reality, the art of designing your world from within until the outer world has no choice but to align. Everything we've explored, from the emotional code of reality to reprogramming feeling, comes together in one simple yet powerful truth. You are not a passive observer. You are the emotional sculptor of your world. Neville Goddard summed it up with a clarity that cuts through any doubt. Everything you see was once just an idea in your mind and an emotion in your heart. If you accept this premise, then the power to transform your life is already in your hands, or rather, within you. That's why I want to leave you with a challenge, not as a mechanical task, but as a ritual of conscious creation. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and plant a seed in your imagination. Not the whole tree, not every step to get there, just the seed. A short scene that represents your desire already fulfilled. It could be a hug, a congratulation, an image of yourself enjoying the result. Live it with all your senses. Hear the sounds, see the colors, feel the texture, sense the scent of the moment, and above all, immerse yourself in gratitude and certainty as if it were a real memory. Do it for 7 consecutive nights. Don't look for immediate signs. Don't obsess over the how or the when. Trust that by sustaining that emotion, you are writing a new inner script, and sooner or later, reality will have to adjust to that new vibration. Remember, what you feel now is the invisible architecture of your future. If you learn to direct it with intention and consistency, you will stop living in reaction mode and start living in creation mode. The real magic is not in waiting for the world to change. It's in changing the vibration with which you create it. That is Neville's legacy. A reminder that every great change begins within you, in a feeling you choose to sustain until it becomes your new reality.